full ride scholarships. Is that really a thing? For me, it wasn't. I did not get one big scholarship, but for some students, it actually is possible. There are universities that offer full ride scholarships. And so in today's video, I'm going to share with you 10 colleges that have full ride scholarships, as well as explain kind of what we want to look at, the differences between different full rides, because you may think your student's getting a full ride, but it may not be a true full ride, and what we can do to supplement these. Now, make sure you hit subscribe because every week we release a new strategy to work towards that free ride. So if your student doesn't get the Holy Grail, Hail Mary, full ride scholarship, there are still a lot of strategies. So again, make sure you hit subscribe. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, where we redefine paying for college to help families build strong financial futures rather than ones buried in debt. So of course, a full ride scholarship would be the way to do that, but we have dozens and dozens of strategies to work our way. Now, scholarships, those are my bread and butter. I have a lot to say about them. So again, make sure you hit subscribe. But today's video, we're going to talk about scholarships in a new way. So a lot of times when I'm talking about scholarships, I'm talking about smaller dollar scholarships that can add up to a free ride. For us mere mortals, for me, I was an average student. That's how I got to a free ride, which I did. I literally got an overage check every semester to help pay for my expenses, which is awesome. But if we can get a free ride in one application or from one institution, of course, that would be amazing. So if your student is extremely competitive, this might be something worth looking into. Now, that said, before I get into this, I do want to say that no matter what, even if your student is eligible for something like this, you still want to make sure that they are applying for smaller scholarships. And if your student's not eligible, you don't think that they'll win it, then you really need to be applying to those smaller scholarships. So I do have a free training. It's about an hour long. You can go to thescholarshipsystem.com/free training or click the video on the screen. You'll also find the link in the description, but make sure you attend that after this video to work on those smaller scholarships as well as these full ride ones. So full ride scholarships, there's a difference between full ride and full tuition. This is a very, very important difference. So I want to start there. Full ride scholarships are ones that cover all of your students' primary educational expenses. Now, they are rare, but they are not impossible to find. Now, these sometimes even go further than just the typical cost, providing sometimes stipends for costs that go beyond the typical tuition, fees, room and board, and supplies. So stipends are something that even can come with this. Now, the difference between this and a full tuition scholarship is that, as it says, full tuition only covers the tuition, which a lot of families, that's huge, right? That's still a big step in the right direction. But for me, my freshman year, my tuition was only half of my bill. I still needed a large chunk of money, 5 figures, to get to that free ride for that year. So by covering tuition, it is nowhere near a free ride. So I want to make sure I just stress that to families. And if your student gets a full tuition ride, then they really need to also be applying for those outside scholarships to supplement it, because it will not get them a free ride. Now, again, I just want to say, if your student got a full tuition scholarship, congratulations, because that, again, is a huge step in the right direction. But just know the work is not done. So let's go back to these full ride scholarships. What are they typically based on? So how is a student eligible for these? Now, the full ride scholarships are typically based on merit. So financial need isn't necessarily a big qualifier for this type. It's typically more based on their history of their excellent academic performance. Maybe they scored an amazing test score on SATs or ACTs or even PSATs. Maybe they have an incredible amount of community service, leadership skills, a great resume. These are the things that help a student stand out for the full rides. It's, again, often not based on just financial need. In that case, then it would often be a combination of maybe some merit and financial aid. Now, for families that are low income, that doesn't exclude you, right? You can still apply and if your student's competitive. But this is good news for families that don't have financial need. So if you don't, but yet your student is outstanding and very involved and has great test scores, then they can still be eligible for this, even if your family doesn't have quote unquote financial need. Now, most full ride opportunities are through the university themselves. There are some big scholarships out there like Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper. There's some big ones out there where a student can get six figures in a win and probably get a full ride. But typically when we're talking about full ride scholarships, it is something that is awarded specifically through the university, the college, the institution. Now, that also means that they are the ones to set the stipulations as far as how they can award the full-time scholarship and what the criteria are in order to meet it. So this may mean that they may have some for international or out-of-state students where they can be eligible, but it also could mean that they are not. But either way, each opportunity is certainly unique, depending on the schools, depending on what they require in order to apply. So this really is a case-by-case basis from school to school. Now, because of that, your student you want them to look into what are the criteria? Are we close to meeting this? In fact, this is research that we should be doing by sophomore year, junior year, no later in high school, because if we are not quite meeting the criteria, we still have time to do that. If we're looking into this as a senior in high school, then chances are if we don't already meet the criteria, then that ship has probably already sailed. So this is why I'm always stressing to our families, the earlier the better when it comes to implementing a lot of our strategies. But finding out what are the criteria and aiming for that. Competition will be fierce for these. So sometimes we want to groom ourselves for them a little bit. Maybe we are something in the scholarship system in our online course. We have prepping for interviews. Interviews are often part of this. Maybe we are practicing essay writing. Maybe we're improving our GPA. Maybe we're doing practice exams so that we can improve our test scores. There are so many different pieces of the puzzle that result in a free ride that we really have to make sure that we are well-rounded. Okay, so that said, let's get into the actual list. So 10 colleges that your student may want to start with if you think they might be able to pull off a free ride. The first one is American University, and they are located in Washington, D.C. The second is Boston University, which, as it says, is in Boston, Massachusetts. Then third, we have Duke University in North Carolina. And we have another North Carolina college, which is North Carolina State University, and that one is in Raleigh. Ohio State University offers full ride scholarships. University of Virginia, which is in Charlottesville, Virginia. University of Houston, which is in Houston, Texas. I've actually lived there and I really enjoyed it, so not a terrible location either. Villanova University, which is in Pennsylvania, in Villanova, Pennsylvania. George Washington University, which is in Washington, D.C. And the College of William and Mary, which is in Williamsburg, Virginia. Now, this is just 10. I actually have a blog post with 50 colleges with full rides, so we will link to that in the description. I also have, if your student is a national merit finalist, a separate list of 25 schools that offer full rides. So all of these resources, including that free webinar you want to join and attend, they will all be linked in the description. Now, one thing I want to note is you may have noticed that a lot of these schools are pretty competitive. But again, if your student's going to be eligible for a full ride, they have to be pretty competitive. They've got to be really top-notch students and involved, and again, all of the other things I mentioned. So again, if your student is that student, then amazing. You certainly want to look into this list. If they're not, again, check out that free training because there are still tons of scholarships for even the average student. So that said, again, full ride scholarships, they are very competitive. That doesn't necessarily mean that a student cannot get them, but it just means that we need to do the work, do the research, and prepare for them. And if we don't get it, then if you're listening to anything I say and if you're following us, you should still be able to get some great scholarships through the scholarship systems tips in that free training. All right, again, subscribe so that you can watch our future tips, and I'll see you in the next video.